So we're gonna do the best to do the car, but leave it as original as possible, because my intent is to drive the car, not as a daily driver, but as a fun car that we can keep in our family for as long as we can, and to pass on for others to enjoy. Because to me, that's really the key to owning a classic car, is to enjoy it, let other people enjoy it, and share that experience with everyone. My name's Bob Folkestad. I'm the owner of the Barnfind car. A little backstory how I met Jeff is I had a friend that buys and sells some cars. He called me. I own a small manufacturing company in Des Moines, Iowa. And I'm into cars. I've got, I don't know, a few cars and motorcycles. But anyway, he said, hey, I found a Shelby in a barn not too far from us. And I'm like, cool. I go, let's go see it. He didn't have the money to buy it. Got there, met a really nice lady, and we become really good friends over this whole car thing, and she comes over and has dinner with us and all sorts of stuff. What the other video didn't talk about was I helped her sell all the other cars, and I restored a Jeep for her. We had some fun, because we have a painter that works for us, and I build cars kind of as a hobby. It keeps me out of the bars and keeps me married. I said, you know, the only fair way to buy this car is to help you with your other stuff and just pay the appraised price on it. Because I really want the car, because I think a 67 GT500 is probably the most epic, or one of the most epic muscle cars you can own. You know, I have a son. We do a little bit of road racing, autocross stuff, and you know, it'd be a great thing if he ever gets married and has children. We could just keep in the family and pass down and drive it when it's nice and enjoy the car. Not have a trailer queen. Have something we can drive. We'll maintain it. It'll be in a climate controlled garage. It won't deteriorate anymore. We'll neutralize all the rust and do that. So since I own a manufacturing company, we're an exhibitor at the SEMA show. If you don't know what the SEMA show is, it's a Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association. It's the biggest aftermarket car show in the world. We're out there exhibiting our stuff. I'm trying to find an appraiser for the Shelby. I've contacted a couple guys, and I seemed like I knew more about Shelbys than they did, so I knew those weren't the right guys. So my son's in the Battle of the Builders. And if you don't know what the SEMA Battle of the Builders is, it's basically exhibitors at SEMA or an invitee to SEMA builds a car, and it's like the challenge for a car builder. So him and I built a race truck with some friends of ours, and we're in the Battle of the Builders, and then he gets a golden ticket to go race in the Optima World's Fastest Street Car Challenge. So we go out to that, we set up the truck. We had no idea we were gonna race the thing. And we're at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway at the road course. And I'm talking to my son, and I see this Shelby Series 1 car, and I look at it, and I go, hey, my son's name's Preston. I go, Preston, look at that. I go, that's a Shelby Series 1. And I go, in fact, I'm not convinced, or I am convinced that I worked on that car. And in fact, the guy standing behind us, his name is Gary Patterson, and he's the guy I worked with almost 20 years ago, or maybe a little more than 20 years ago, on that car. And the second I said his name, he turned around and looked at me and said, hi, Bob. And I'm like, Gary, how are you doing? So we started talking, and I told him about the Shelby I found in the barn, because I hadn't called him yet. I was trying to find somebody kind of local through the Mustang Club, or there was a guy in North Dakota that knew some stuff about it, but I really didn't know Jeff, because I'm not into that Mustang purist type stuff. So we get the, I had the VIN number and the Shelby number and all the stuff and a copy of the title. And we went to Gary's office after the day at the track, and he pulled up the Shelby directory and goes, yeah, it's real. And you know, this is who owns it. And I go, yeah, that's who I'm talking to. And he goes, you need to contact Jeff and Julie Yurgovich at RNA Motorsports. And I'm like, perfect. So I called Jeff, and Jeff was busy and I was busy. That was like November-ish. And then all of a sudden, boom, Jeff's like, hey, I can be there in 2 days. I'm like, oh, okay, let me schedule it. I go, the weather's gonna be okay, because Iowa, you never know what's gonna happen. And he goes, can I bring my friend? I'm like, sure. And I go, I need to ask the widow to see if that's okay, because she's kind of a private person. She didn't want to be named and wanted to understand what was going on. And she said, sure. Anyway, we drug the car out of the barn, brought it to my shop, did the video, you saw that. I kind of sat on the car, and I don't know what time I brought it down here, probably like March, April timeframe. And then Jeff's kind of been working on things step by step. You know, he got the brakes done and got the rear end done, transmission rebuilt. We found a motor out of basically the same week production of the car.
My name's Jeff Yurgovich. I own RNA Motorsports in Lee Summit, Missouri. The Barnfind was a great story to start with. When we got the call on a Wednesday, I made a decision that I needed to go out and look at this as soon as possible, because you don't find many barn finds. So the first story is what everybody saw on the barn find that we did. And now that we've had some time to have the car and tear it apart, we did find a date-coded correct engine for the car. Came out of a 67 Shelby that was 10 numbers away, that was drag raced. It is original motor. Makes it really nice that date coding and getting everything correct, as we talked about in the first video. Now we've able to dyno the engine outside the car, make sure everything's right. We actually spent the time to detail the engine because we needed to replace it. And once you replace it, you might as well put it back right. Doesn't make it original, but it is original in its detail for what it is. We've since gone through and we took all the original parts with the car that were there, that were still original and date coded, and restored every part right down to the water pump, the power steering pump, the brake shoes, all the original calipers, everything that went with the car. We retained it with the car so that it is just a restored part, so it mechanically becomes functional to drive the car again. I hope you enjoy looking at all the photos and all the videos that go along with this. Part of the car's history is retaining all those parts. We retained everything possible to put the car back right. We've since now got the car started. We'll do a final tune on it, make everything line up, and hopefully everybody will get to see the car at the next shows or the next features that it's at. We've left everything we could possibly do on the outside of it original, meaning the paint, the interior. Even though some of it was worn and had some stuff, it's still the original Barnfind car.
So Jeff sourced the motor, they put on dyno, they ran it, made sure everything was fresh in it. He rebuilt all the carburetors. We came in yesterday, we did the assembly of the motor. You know, we accessorized everything, you know, carbs, exhaust, fuel system, all that stuff. I'm working a little bit. I don't think it's common for Jeff to have his customers to come down, but I've spent 2 thrashy days here working on the, you know, suspension, getting the motor trans in, exhaust on. We fired it up, and it ran awesome. I mean, I can't say enough good about Jeff and his team here. I mean, they are experts at this stuff. And that's the main reason I didn't work on the car myself. I have the full capability of doing it. I'm not a Mustang expert, and I think this is a special car, and it needs to be done special by a guy that's really an expert at it.